So, we finally have confirmation that Giannis Antetokounmpo will be on a new team at the NBA trade deadline. Right now, the Milwaukee Bucks are 18-27, the 12th seed in the Eastern Conference, not even a play-in team. And it's been all year we've heard whispers of Giannis being traded at the deadline. He's definitely fueled that fire as well. And now it's all but confirmed. We are about to see one of the biggest trades in NBA history in the next 10 days. And in today's video, we're going to talk about the best fits for Giannis, his trade value, and where he might end up. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe, and let's get right to it. So across all 30 teams in the NBA, I have narrowed it down to 8 teams that I believe really have a chance to make a splash at landing Giannis Antetokounmpo. I'm gonna get a few teams out the way just so I don't have to hear about it in the comments. The Rockets cannot trade for Giannis unless they move Kevin Durant or Şengün. I don't think that's happening. The Lakers are also not getting Giannis unless they're trading LeBron James or Luka Doncic, which is obviously not happening. So with that out the way, let's get right to it. So first, let's talk about the New York Knicks, the most rumored and maybe most likely landing spot for Giannis at the deadline. There was a real report that came out in the offseason that Giannis actually asked for a trade then, and specifically to the New York Knicks. It was made pretty clear that the Knicks were pretty high up there, if not the most likely landing spot for Giannis, just because of the big market, and that seems to be where he wants to go. They're also competing for titles now. They have Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, a good core, and they absolutely have the pieces to offer to make a trade for Giannis work. Now, in this hypothetical, I have Karl Anthony Towns, Miles McBride, and 3 first-round picks going to the Bucks in exchange for Giannis. Now, one thing I'm going to make clear in every single mock trade I have here today, all of these trades will include 3 first-round picks going to Milwaukee. That's just because I don't know if Giannis goes for 3 first, 5 first. There's really no telling. This is a top 2 to 3 player on the planet, if not the best. So I'm just going to go baseline 3 first-round picks. He could absolutely go for more. But for the New York Knicks to land Giannis, they would absolutely have to be trading Karl Anthony Towns, who's making $53 million over the next 2 seasons. I don't think they'd be upset at all about getting off that contract. Now, the real issue with this is for Milwaukee. Does a package of Cat, Miles McBride, and a few first-round picks really blow you away? Absolutely not. But if they are determined to get Giannis to wherever he wants to go, I would assume that's to New York. This could very well be a multi-team trade. You have OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges, who do have some value there. Obviously, Karl Anthony Towns doesn't have the most value considering he's on a big contract and is having a bit of a down year. I could 100% see a world where OG or Mikal get traded as well to another team, and then that value would go to the Milwaukee Bucks just to make it a bit more enticing. You could also move a Josh Hart or a Mitchell Robinson as well, just for that extra bit of value going back to Milwaukee. But man, the New York Knicks, who even though they haven't looked spectacular this season, I thought they would be the number 1 seed in the East this year. They still are a top 3 team in the East at the end of the day. And you add Giannis Antetokounmpo next to Jalen Brunson, potentially if you're keeping OG and Mikal, man, that would just be nasty. But if I had to put my money on the team making the Giannis trade at the deadline, it would probably be the New York Knicks. It just makes the most sense. Now, the next team I want to talk about is the San Antonio Spurs. This might be the scariest option, honestly. Giannis next to Wembanyama just sounds awful. Like, as far as an NBA fan goes, I want my team to win too. But the Spurs are definitely one of the more likely landing spots for Giannis, just because they have a extremely bright future. They have plenty of draft capital to trade, and they also have young players like included Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell, and Jeremy Sohan. I also did add the 3 first-round picks, but they can add plenty more. Now, with Giannis' trade value being so high, you could also be moving Dylan Harper or Stephon Castle in this deal. Honestly, I would be okay with that if I'm San Antonio, considering I already have De'Aaron Fox, and the opportunity to add Giannis next to Wemby. I mean, what are we even talking about? So that actually does make a bit more sense. I'm going to take Jeremy Sohan at this deal and add Dylan Harper. There's just a plethora of young guys on this team you can trade. You also have Harrison Barnes, who's been really good over the last 2 years in San Antonio, at least shooting the 3. But in a perfect world, you make this trade for Giannis. Your starting lineup is De'Aaron Fox, Stephon Castle, Harrison Barnes, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Victor Wembanyama. That would be a nightmare of a team defensively, and they would also have some decent floor spacers for Giannis as well. I really do like the idea of a Wemby-Giannis duo because I think the fit actually could be there. I think they play a bit more similar to each other than people really think, but with both of them being decent ball handlers, can attack off the dribble, and can shoot the 3, I think they could absolutely work together as a duo. And even if the Spurs are trading 4 to 5 first-round picks to get this deal done, they would still have some draft capital left over, and you you obviously also have De'Aaron Fox along with others on the team. This isn't a situation where a Carmelo Anthony situation where you get traded to a new team, but your new team gave up everything they had to get you. This team could be just fine moving off of Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, Dylan Harper, or Stephon Castle. They could 100% still be competing for a title out of the Western Conference after making a trade like this at the deadline. And truth be told, I don't know how many trios out there can even compete with a De'Aaron Fox, Victor Wembanyama, Giannis Antetokounmpo trio. That just sounds disgusting. You have Giannis Antetokounmpo, arguably the best player on the planet, at worst the third best player, next to Victor Wembanyama, who already looks like a generational player, one of the best defenders, if not the best defender in the NBA currently, and De'Aaron Fox, one of the fastest and more athletic guards in the Western Conference. I really would like the San Antonio Spurs making a move for Giannis at the deadline. Now for the next team, I would not bank on this one if I'm being honest, but the Warriors have been in the running for the idea, at least, of trading for Giannis or signing Giannis in free agency for the last like 4 years, it's felt like. So in this hypothetical, Giannis would finally be landing in Golden State. You would be giving up Jimmy Butler, Jonathan Kuminga, Brandon Podziemski, all of your draft capital for Giannis and Kyle Kuzma. Now for the Bucks, you'd be getting off of the Kyle Kuzma contract in exchange for Jonathan Kuminga, who's probably more valuable right now. He's younger, he has more upside, and he has a team option on that second year. You also get Brandon Podziemski. Now for the big fish in this deal is Jimmy Butler going to the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, like I said, I wouldn't bank on this one. It doesn't make a lot of sense for the Bucks to add Jimmy Butler, but it could make sense for a multi-team trade where maybe another team sees value in having Jimmy Butler back next year, trades value, that goes to Milwaukee, and everybody gets a piece of the pie. But that's assuming that anybody really wants Jimmy Butler next season, who's going to be, I believe, 37 years old, making over $50 million. That's just not very desirable. And that's why I don't think Giannis goes to Golden State. For one, this Golden State roster is extremely old. Steph Curry is still playing like one of the best point guards in the NBA, but at this point, can we expect Steph to keep going for 3 to 4 to 5 more years? I don't know. He's already 37 years old, and if I'm Giannis, I would rather not go to a team that's really fizzling out of contention. Draymond Green is also getting up there in age. He's still a great player defensively, but definitely not the Draymond of old. The Warriors just aren't a very desirable destination for Giannis, at least in my opinion, and the window of competing with Giannis is like 1 to 2 more years, and then that era is kind of cooked. Now for the absolute nightmare case scenario, one that I think we're all expecting right now, is the OKC Thunder making a move for Giannis. The Thunder quite literally own every single first round pick in the NBA over the next like 5 years, so realistically, not only Giannis, but the Thunder could pretty much trade for anybody they wanted that is available at any given time. I mean, they have more than enough assets, but in this trade, I have Hart and Alex Caruso and 3 first round picks. Could obviously be more, could be up to 5 to 6 first round picks because the Thunder just have so many. Now, obviously, Hart and Caruso don't make much sense for the Bucks just because they're win now type players. If I'm competing for a championship, I want Caruso, but if I'm trying to rebuild, I really have no need for Caruso, and the Bucks should be entering that rebuild mode after trading Giannis. But these two are just here to make the money work because I don't know if Chet Holmgren or J-Dub gets moved in a Giannis trade, if the Thunder would even consider that, or I'm sure they would consider it, but you just won a championship last season. You looked historically dominant. Would you really break up that young core one year, half year removed from winning a championship for Giannis? That I don't know. So if they're hesitant on moving a guy like Chet or J-Dub, I would understand it because you already got your ring. You kind of want to play this thing out before you make a big time move like that. That's understandable to me, but they do have plenty of other assets. You have guys like Isaiah Joe, Cason Wallace, AJ Mitchell, Nikola Topic, plenty of first round picks. Like I said, if the Thunder wanted to make this move, I'm sure they could pull it off. But yeah, moving off of J-Dub or Chet kind of would be the thorn in the foot of this trade, whether or not OKC would do that. I could see both sides of the coin. You can't pass up a Shea Giannis duo, 2 of the top 3 to 5 best players in the NBA for the next 5 years. That would be hard to pass up. But at the same time, this team did just win a championship, so is it time to break up the young core already? That might be the issue. The next team we got here, let's talk about the Toronto Raptors making a move for Giannis Antetokounmpo. In this trade, I have them giving up Brandon Ingram, RJ Barrett, 3 first round picks, could be 4, for Giannis. Now, as we all know, Masai Ujiri is no longer in the Raptors building, but they are no stranger to making a move like this to compete for a championship now. And this team does actually have the assets to pull it off. Now, the issue might be the Scottie Barnes-Giannis fit. I don't know if I per se like that, considering a lot of their skill sets are both kind of intertwined. They operate best in the paint, in the mid-range area, and I don't want to say either one of them are bad three-point shooters because that's not the case, but we can't act like both of them are just 100% reliable. Also, with Jakob Poeltl in the paint, I just don't like the offensive fit there with the Raptors. That's just going to be a lot of big bodies down low and not a lot of three-point shooting, and that's been one of the Raptors' biggest flaws over the last few years, is just that three-point shooting, the floor spacing, and Giannis doesn't exactly help you out in that regard. But like I said, they do have the pieces to make it work. If you're not thinking about offering Scotty Barnes, you do have Brandon Ingram, RJ Barrett, Grady Dick, Colin Murray-Boyles. There's a lot of young talent on this roster, and with Toronto being surprisingly good this season, one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference, and they still don't even look like they've hit their stride. I mean, I watch a decent amount of Raptors games, and some nights they are just completely off from three, or just get away from the game plan and let games slip away from them. I think they could have an even much better record than they have right now. And you add Giannis to this team, an incredible shot blocker, next to an already good defensive core, that could be scary in the Eastern Conference. Now, there is a world where Scotty Barnes could be involved in this deal as well, and if I'm Milwaukee, of all the talented young players I could get out there in a Giannis trade, Scotty Barnes could be one of the more exciting young pieces to get back in the NBA. Already an incredible defender, has a sound offensive game, and I would love to have him if I'm Milwaukee. They might fly under the radar, but I would say watch out for Toronto in the Giannis sweepstakes. Now for the Miami Heat, this is a team that will always be mentioned no matter what for any star that becomes available, but I don't think they make this move because the Heat don't make moves. But with the news coming out, obviously the Heat have to be mentioned, and they are 100% going to be in the race for Giannis. They were in the race for Kevin Durant just a few months ago, and I expect the same thing here. In this trade, I have them sending out Tyler Hero, Andrew Wiggins, and all their draft capital in exchange for Giannis. Now, if you're the Heat, with the way the Eastern Conference looks right now, I mean, the Pistons are a really good team, but I don't think they're unbeatable come playoff time by any means. And the New York Knicks, I think they're also beatable if they don't get Giannis. So if I'm Miami, I would be licking my chops at a Giannis trade if I could get him. Giannis next to Bam would be one of the best defensive front courts in the NBA. I could definitely see you losing Khalil Ware in this trade. I'm sure the Bucks would really like to have him back, and the Miami Heat don't seem to really get along with Khalil Ware. He's had his fair share of issues with the coaching staff, and if a guy like Giannis became available, I don't think Khalil Ware would be untouchable at all. The problem with making a trade for Giannis, if I'm the Heat, is the fact that I really don't have much to offer. I don't have very much draft capital to offer, and Tyler Hero is like my best asset right now outside of Bam Adebayo. So this would have to be a three-team trade, or they would just have to gut a lot of the rotation to get Giannis, just because they don't have that many valuable pieces. But as far as landing spots go, I mean, the Heat would be one of the more perfect spots for Giannis. They've always been a win-now type organization. I think him with Eric Spoelstra would be great. Unfortunately, Giannis has had to deal with Adrian Griffin, Doc Rivers, Mike Budenholzer over the years. Not the best of coaches. You get a guy like Eric Spoelstra next to Giannis, that could be really nice. And I don't think any player in the league would complain about living in Miami. As for the Brooklyn Nets, who could definitely make a move at Giannis at the trade deadline or in the offseason, I actually really am interested by this destination. I don't know if it would work out long term, but the idea of using all the assets you've got back in the KD, Kyrie, Mikal Bridges trades, you go out and get Giannis, and then you build a competent roster around him. I do like that idea, and I think they could make that work. They have one of the youngest rosters in the NBA currently, a ton of draft capital, and some good trade pieces like I'm going to mention here. Michael Porter Jr., Yegor Dimon, Day'Ron Sharpe, and 3 first-round picks could 100% be up to 5 or 6 for Giannis. Now, me personally, if I was operating the Milwaukee Bucks, the Brooklyn Nets are one of the first teams I would like to talk a Giannis trade with because of the sheer amount of assets they have to give. Michael Porter Jr. has played the best basketball of his life this year. Yegor Dimon has been a really solid young player, especially shooting the 3-ball. That came out of nowhere. He's been straight cooking behind the 3-point line. The Nets don't have a 1A young star to offer like a Paolo Banchero or a Scotty Barnes, but there are solid depth pieces littered across this roster, and they also do have some of the most draft capital in the NBA. They have tons of future cap space and roster flexibility because half of these guys are on their rookie contracts and the other half are on short-term deals. So if I'm Giannis, maybe the idea of going to Brooklyn, who will have a top pick in this year's draft, along with a ton of cap space, they can go out there and get you a second star to play alongside. There's definitely worse options out there. I just hope if the Nets do pursue a move like this, they don't handle it like they did KD and Kyrie. Now for the final team of the video, let's talk about the Atlanta Hawks, who might make the most sense of any team to go out there and get Giannis. In the only trade we've had this NBA season, the Hawks traded their franchise star point guard Trae Young to the Washington Wizards, and that signaled an entirely new direction for the Atlanta Hawks. They didn't want to extend their star point guard, and they're looking to move forward with Jalen Johnson, Dyson Daniels, and Nickeil Alexander-Walker leading this team. So now that you don't have to pay Trae Young $40 to $50 million a season for the next 4 years, you dodged a bullet by not giving him that contract extension. You can now give that money to Giannis Antetokounmpo. In this trade I drew up, you'd be giving up Kristaps Porzingis, Zachary Reshapes, last year's first overall pick, who just so far hasn't panned out in the NBA entirely, but I still have hope for him. He has an NBA build and has plenty of potential. And Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who's been sneakily really good for the Atlanta Hawks this season, shooting the ball and scoring the ball, along with most of their draft capital. But the most important thing the Hawks have to offer right here is this 2026 New Orleans Pelicans first round pick. Right now, the Pelicans are the 15th seed in the Western Conference, one of the worst teams in the NBA. That first round pick could end up being the #1 overall pick. You go out there and get you a Darren Peterson or an AJ DeBanton in this year's draft. I mean, you can't ask for much better than that in return for your star player. For the Bucks, you would get the chance to start over in a new era with a top 3 draft pick, hopefully in this upcoming draft, along with a previous #1 overall pick and draft capital. That would all be amazing to start a rebuild with. However, there is a chance that the Bucks don't even entertain this unless Atlanta offers up Jalen Johnson. Jalen Johnson is completely broken out this year. He looks like an all-star caliber player. He's averaging 23, 10, and 8 on the season. So if you are Milwaukee and the Hawks want to push for contention right now with Giannis, they're all in. You got to give me Jalen Johnson, because at the end of the day, in a trade, you have to give something up to get something back. But this kind of all depends on what the Bucks are looking for in a Giannis trade, whether that's a ton of draft capital and expiring contracts, or maybe they're just looking for that one really good player to kickstart their next era with, and that one player could be Jalen Johnson. But I don't know if they'd have the talent after trading for Giannis to truly compete for anything serious, and after losing these assets in which you don't have many first round picks, it would be pretty difficult to build a long-standing competitive team. Yeah, Dyson Daniels is great defensively, but he's one of the worst three-point shooters of all time this season. Onyeka Okongwu is a really solid big man, but I don't think he'll ever be an all-star, and both CJ McCollum and Kristaps' contracts are expiring, so you would have to shake this roster up a shit ton in the offseason. But with all that considered, I think both of these teams could walk away happy in a potential Giannis trade. But anyways, that's gonna wrap it up for me. Let me know what you guys think down below about Giannis, where he might end up, and what his trade value looks like. This is gonna be an insane next 10 days or so. So don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to keep up, and I hope to see you guys in another video soon. Until then, I'm out. Deuces.